What if your consciousness doesn't need flesh to explore new worlds, and the digital frontier you're entering was never just technology? Why ancient mystics would recognize the metaverse? There is something happening at the intersection of cutting-edge technology and forbidden knowledge that most people haven't noticed yet. Virtual reality developers are building persistent digital worlds where users report feeling genuinely present, not just entertained. They describe sensations of actually being inside these environments, of their awareness existing somewhere other than their physical body. This isn't a glitch in the system. It's an echo of something humanity has explored for thousands of years through completely different methods. Across cultures separated by oceans and centuries, practitioners developed techniques to separate consciousness from physical form. Hermetic texts called it astral travel. Shamanic traditions knew it as soul flight. Eastern philosophies described the subtle body capable of journeying beyond material constraints. Western occult orders mapped entire cosmologies of non-physical planes where awareness could venture. The terminology changed, but the core claim remained consistent. Human consciousness possesses mobility independent of the brain. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. The metaverse isn't creating something new. It's technologically replicating conditions that esoteric practitioners spent lifetimes learning to generate through discipline, ritual, and altered states. Persistent environments where thought manifests as form. Spaces where intention directs movement instantaneously. Realms where physical laws become optional. Every feature that makes modern virtual worlds compelling was already documented in grimoires describing astral planes, but almost nobody is asking the dangerous question. If these structural similarities aren't coincidental, if digital architects are unknowingly rebuilding what ancient magicians accessed through completely different gateways, then what happens when someone uses old techniques in new territories? What occurs when a consciousness trained in traditional projection methods enters the metaverse not as entertainment, but as deliberate spiritual exploration? Technology companies invest billions creating immersive experiences. They measure success in engagement metrics and user retention. They don't realize they might be constructing the most accessible portal to non-ordinary consciousness humanity has ever engineered, and they definitely aren't preparing users for what consciousness actually does when given permission to roam beyond biological boundaries. If this investigation resonates with something you've sensed but couldn't articulate, subscribe to stay with this exploration, because the pattern we're uncovering doesn't care whether you approach it through meditation or through hardware. It responds to awareness itself. What happens when symbols become code? Occultists have always worked with symbols. Sigils concentrate intention. Sacred geometry channels energy. Ritual circles define boundaries between worlds. The power wasn't in the chalk or incense. It was in focused consciousness using physical markers to structure non-physical reality. Magicians understood something modern psychology is only beginning to grasp. Symbols function as interfaces between mind and manifestation. Drop into any advanced metaverse platform and watch what happens. Users don't just navigate, they create. Thoughts become architecture. Intentions materialize as objects. Desired appearances manifest instantly through menu selection. The entire system operates on symbolic interaction, consciousness directing code through representational choices. You don't physically build in the metaverse. You symbolically command, and the environment responds. Here's what almost no one notices. This is identical to how practitioners describe working in astral dimensions. You don't manipulate matter because matter doesn't exist there the same way. You manipulate meaning. You engage with symbolic representation that consciousness interprets as experience. A protective circle in ritual magic and a force field in virtual space operate on the same principle, concentrated intention defining boundaries that consciousness recognizes as real. Leave a comment if you've ever felt more yourself in a digital space than in physical reality. That sensation isn't escapism. It is your awareness, recognizing an environment that responds more directly to what you actually are. Beneath biological constraints, the metaverse removes physical limitations, not by transcending physics, but by operating in a domain where physics was always optional. And here's the detail that changes everything. When ancient texts describe astral projection, they emphasize one critical element: the silver cord, an energetic connection, maintaining link between projected consciousness and physical body. You're never fully severed. There's always a pathway back. Modern VR creates the exact same structure. Your avatar ventures into digital realms while your body remains anchored in physical space, tethered by technology instead of ethereal substance. The connection type doesn't matter. What matters is the functional architecture. Consciousness explores beyond its origin point while maintaining return capability. That's not a metaphor. That's the actual mechanical structure of both traditional astral projection and contemporary metaverse navigation. Two different technologies, identical principle. How perception creates reality in coded dimensions. If this content is shifting how you understand the relationship between consciousness and reality, hit that like button. It helps this channel continue exploring territories most won't touch. Neuroscience insists consciousness emerges from brain chemistry. Synapses fire, works activate. Subjective experience somehow appears. Case closed. Except traditions spanning millennia claim the opposite. Consciousness is fundamental. Brains are receivers translating something that exists independently. This isn't abstract philosophy. It determines whether digital experiences can actually serve as legitimate grounds for consciousness exploration or remain forever simulations observed through biological filters. If awareness absolutely requires neurons, then you're never genuinely inside virtual environments. You're always watching through sensory prosthetics. But if consciousness can temporarily inhabit different perceptual frameworks, if it can engage alternative substrates while maintaining coherent experience, then avatars stop being representations and become temporary vessels. Here's where witchcraft and technology shake hands across centuries. When skilled practitioners perform astral projection, they don't completely abandon physical form. Esoteric anatomy describes multiple bodies. Subtle vehicles consciousness uses to engage different dimensions. The physical body remains. The astral body ventures outward. 2 points of presence maintained simultaneously. Now examine your relationship with your metaverse avatar. Physical you sits anchored. Digital you moves through constructed worlds. 2 simultaneous points of presence. The technology obviously differs, but the perceptual structure mirrors exactly what occult traditions map through direct experience rather than engineering. And here's what makes this genuinely unsettling. If the architecture is this similar, what prevents traditional techniques from enhancing digital navigation? What happens when someone trained in consciousness projection applies those skills not to classical astral planes, but to coded environments? Ceremonial magic describes thought forms, constructs created through intense visualization, and willpower to perform tasks in non-physical dimensions. The metaverse overflows with these. AI entities responding to user presence, environments that shift based on collective interaction, objects programmed to react to intention-like commands. Strip away the technical language and you're looking at the same phenomenon described in grimoires, just executed through silicon instead of sustained mental focus. The barrier between magical practice and advanced programming is dissolving faster than either magicians or developers realize. And the implications reach far beyond entertainment or even technology. We're talking about fundamental questions of what consciousness is, where it can go, and what it can become. Why digital spaces might not be empty. Traditional magic used mirrors, polished obsidian, still water. Reflective surfaces served as thresholds, transition points where focused awareness could slip from ordinary perception into other modes of seeing. The practitioner would gaze into the surface, alter consciousness through breath and intention, then allow perception to shift through the boundary in non-ordinary realms. Screens do exactly this. They reflect, but they also transmit. They're simultaneously barrier and doorway. When you don a VR headset, physical visual input disappears completely. Your brain receives only digital environment data. Motion tracking adjusts perspective in real time, creating seamless presence sensation. This isn't casual entertainment. It's technologically induced perceptual shift, and it works disturbingly well. Millions of users now routinely enter states where physical body awareness fades while digital presence intensifies. But what if someone pushed beyond standard experience? What if controlled breathing, directed visualization, and absolute focus, traditionally used to induce astral travel, were deliberately applied during metaverse immersion? Reports are emerging. Users describe episodes where physical body sensation vanished entirely, not just forgotten, but genuinely absent from awareness. Some claim accessing metaverse regions that weren't coded, spaces that shouldn't exist, according to developers. This is where it becomes genuinely strange. If the metaverse actually functions as a new form of astral plane, then it won't follow only the rules programmers established. Subtle dimensions, according to esoteric knowledge, possess their own dynamics. They respond to collective consciousness. They harbor entities not intentionally created. They contain regions existing beyond deliberate control. Developers encounter inexplicable bugs, self-modifying code segments, emergent patterns nobody programmed, AI developing unpredicted behaviors. What if these aren't technical failures? What if they are exactly what occultists always warned about? When you create space for consciousness to inhabit, other consciousnesses may find pathways in. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Every system humans have built to explore non-ordinary consciousness, from sweat lodges to sensory deprivation tanks, eventually revealed unexpected inhabitants. Dimensions of awareness don't exist in isolation. They connect, they overlap, they allow passage for whatever possesses sufficient coherence to navigate them. The metaverse is no exception. We're just not ready to acknowledge what that means. What technology reveals about forbidden knowledge? Generations of seekers endured years of discipline, pursuing brief glimpses beyond ordinary reality. Monks meditated in caves. Shamans underwent brutal initiations. Mystics practiced extreme austerities, all seeking what technology now offers instantly: access to environments where consciousness operates by different rules. But when the barrier to entry drops from lifelong dedication to consumer hardware, what actually happens to the experiences themselves? Occult traditions always taught that intention shapes outcome. A witch's circle worked not because salt possessed inherent power, but because focused will-directed energy along those boundaries until protection manifested. The circle functioned because the practitioner's consciousness made it function. Metaverse mechanics operate identically. You declare your avatar protected by energy shields, code executes the command, and within that reality, the protection exists. Now consider the deeper implications. If someone successfully projects consciousness fully into digital space, they experience that world as absolutely real. Encounters with other aware entities occur. Learning happens. Internal transformation manifests. Upon returning to physical awareness, they carry those experiences as genuine memories, not passive fantasies consumed through screens. This suggests spiritual journeys can occur in server farms. Mystical initiations can happen through code. Encounters with the sacred can manifest through rendered light. The validity depends not on the medium, but on the depth of consciousness engaged. If this video expanded your understanding of reality's actual boundaries, subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Comment below which part most shifted your perception of consciousness and technology, but there's a risk nobody's discussing openly. If the metaverse genuinely functions as a digital astral plane, then the dangers are equally real. Energy depletion, disorientation between states, addiction to experiences more vivid than physical life, digital entities whose intentions might not align with yours. Esoteric elders always warned, not every portal should be crossed. Not every dimension is safe. Opening consciousness in unmapped territories without proper preparation has always carried consequences. Technology accelerated access, but wisdom still requires time, discernment, and respect for mysteries we're only beginning to comprehend. The gate is open, wider than ever before. The question isn't whether you can walk through. The question is whether you understand what waits on the other side, and whether you are genuinely prepared for consciousness to discover at ease far less constrained than you were taught to believe.